Welcome back, everyone. I'm joined here right now with Bob Thompson, who is a 5th grade teacher at Ella White Elementary. Bob, thank you so much for being here with me today.
Well, thank you for having me.
Of course. So we just spoke with John, and he told us his involvement with NEMI GLSI. But go ahead and tell me, how did you get involved with the Northeast Great Lakes Stewardship Initiative?
I was invited in with Brandon, and back when NEMI GLSI was first basically there was a group of people that were just kind of spearheading an idea to start the hub. And then I was asked to invite it in, and then Brandon and I were just sitting around talking, and then eventually what happened, we were doing underwater robotics at the time, and then Brandon and I were at the competition, and he was a judge there, and he asked me, he says, you know, how could we take these ROVs and then put them into some kind of stewardship project? And that's really how the place-based really kind of started to fall into place. This is that next year we looked at how can we take underwater robotics and do stewardship projects with it. And at that moment, the GLSI project was just launching the hub, and at that time we became the first pilot project to launch.
So your place-based education subject is underwater robotics?
Well, it's basically, it started with that was the idea that we wanted to look for a way to use underwater robotics, but then it kind of flipped on us, and so underwater robotics became a smaller chunk of the project, and it's more focused on stewardship. So, you know, the projects we've got running, we've got the stewardship project, the Thunder Bay River Watershed Project, which is, we have teachers out doing site visits, which is kind of a lower end involvement into place-based, where teachers are involved with going out at different sites on the river, testing, they're doing, collecting water data, macroinvertebrate data, and doing site visits and invasive species inventories. And then they're sharing that information back with GLSI. And then at a bigger level, we have research projects that are running. The project that we started that's place-based more, and the research part of it grew out of the robotic part of it, and that was one we've got the stewardship project going on with teachers going out and doing the water testing, and then as teachers go and want to do more, we have teachers out doing invasive species population counts on the Thunder Bay River. And then we're also, like my classroom is doing research on lake trout and with the DNR, and then we're raising lake trout in the classroom. We're also working with sturgeon for tomorrow. We're raising a sturgeon in their classroom. So a lot of our projects have focused now, the research end of it is focused more on promoting stewardship for nature or native species. So we have the lake trout going in the classroom, which they're just hatching right now. So we'll plant those in the spring. And part of that project is where we use the underwater robotics. So we'll transport the lake trout fry down to the reefs with the robots.
So how has this project evolved over time since it first began?
Well, the first project started was just us watershed testing. So my classroom would go out and do a couple of sites. And then what happened, students were interested, and my students are like, well, we'd like to see some more data. And they're like, oh, we can only do so many field trips and so many data. So then what we did is students and I got together and we wrote some more grants. And then what that allowed us to do is to get other teachers supplies and materials and help us pay for transportation for them. And then through that transportation, we help pay for transportation, we help pay for transport, and then we also help pay for supplies. So this allows teachers just to really kind of come into the project with what they need, and it allows for them to be more successful right off the bat.
So what are some of your future plans with this project?
Future plans right now is just what we're looking at is, again, the plans kind of change each year, and they're based on what students really want to do. And then so the philosophy of place-based is making sure that the students have ownership in the project. And that each year we've got multiple research projects going on that students are still doing, and some of even the students that were with me years ago are still involved in projects in some way now, still collecting data and doing that, and those projects are continuing on. But when a new classroom comes in, a new group of students, we sit down and say, well, here's what we're working on right now, here's projects that are going on, but how do you guys want to be involved? So part of that buy-in is getting them to choose and them to be specific about what it is they would like to learn. And that's how we can increase that engagement level. And that's really what it's about, is getting students involved, getting them wanting to come to school, and being engaged in what's happening there.
Yeah, so how would you say that this connects to classroom learning or a certain subject that you guys are learning about?
So the majority of there's a lot of science links in there, but really where we get our biggest connection is through language arts, through the reading part of it, the research part of it, and then the writing component of it, where students are then doing a lot of the research on their own, and it's not me pushing the research, it's them wanting to do the research, which I get a lot more, I get higher results and better or higher quality work from them. So in that aspect, we can use that within our targeted writing project to be specific. If we're doing research writing, students can then focus on invasive species or topics within that area that they want versus me giving them topics.
Right.
So they're coming to me saying, hey, this is a good topic I'd like to research, I want to learn more about it. So you get the buy-in, and then it's helping us research-wise as well within the whole of the project.
So how would you say that your students benefit from being involved in this type of project?
I think the biggest buy-in that I get out of it and what I hope to get out of it is the engagement in the classroom. And we know that if students come into the classroom and they're engaged in what's happening in the classroom, content retention will raise up towards 85% versus the normal classroom setting where you're teaching and they're listening, you're looking at 15% retention rate. So in that process, what I see is greater results, is students coming away with that engagement piece. They're coming away with a greater understanding of the content, and then what we're doing in the classroom is connected for them. So they're beginning to see the bigger picture,
right,
and how things are placed together. So even, for instance, today we're working on our underwater robotics today, and then students were calculating using mixed numbers and doing math, which in the mixed numbers are part of our 5th grade standard. So you're seeing students applying math in a completely different way, which you didn't anticipate, but the nice thing, there it is.
Yeah. So, and it kind of opens doors for them also in the future if they want to continue to look into this type of project, I guess, right? Would you say kind of?
And well, the idea is with the philosophy of Place is get students out into the community so that they become connected to the community and become part of the community, and so that they're, not just, sitting in the classroom, but they're actually proactive citizens. They're out doing something that will make a difference in the community. And then again, in that investment, what you're hoping is that those students become part or involved in the community, and then even as they grow older and they come back, they want to come back to the community. And then as they are adults, they're giving back to the community again. So we're connecting them and hoping that happens. So getting them involved with a lot of the community agencies, and really that's what makes our projects work, are the community agency, and this is where the Great Lakes Stewardship Initiative helps out. It creates us that network that we have a wealth of professionals and that we can draw from, and that they can come in and work with the students, and that really makes a big impact on the students to get an opportunity to work with scientists, to talk with scientists, people that are really doing this stuff every day. Mm-hmm. And then when they're in the classroom, they're working with students that really have their attention.
Yeah.
And you can definitely see it's making an impact.
Yeah, and it comes full circle. It really
Absolutely.
does. All right, great. Well, thank you so much for being here, Bob, and for sharing all about your projects.
Thank you very much.
That'll do it for today's Insights. Thank you so much for watching.
Insights into Northeast Michigan is produced by WBKB News. If you have any comments, suggestions, or topics you would like to see on a future show, please email WBKB News. This has been a production of Thunder Bay Broadcasting Corporation. All rights reserved.